The receipt fluttered in Maria's trembling hand like a verdict she already knew would break her. Table 12, the man in the tailored charcoal suit, the quiet billionaire everyone in the diner had whispered about, had left a tip of exactly $0. Her heart dropped into her stomach as if the floor had vanished beneath her feet. Rent was due tomorrow. Her son's inhaler was almost empty. Her car was coughing like an old smoker. And now this. A wealthy stranger had walked out without leaving even a single dollar, and the weight of that small number felt heavier than any bill she had ever held. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us humanity still exists, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The diner smelled of burned coffee and fried onions, the kind of place where hope often came in small portions and long shifts. Maria had been on her feet since dawn, balancing trays, wiping counters, forcing smiles through exhaustion. She was 28 but felt closer to 50 most days. A single mother after her husband had passed in a construction accident 3 years earlier, she carried the weight of 2 worlds on her narrow shoulders, being both mother and father to little Eli, who waited every night for her to come home with tired hugs and leftover pancakes. Every dollar mattered. Tips weren't luxuries, they were survival. The billionaire had arrived quietly, no entourage, no flash, just a man with sharp eyes and calm posture. His watch alone looked worth more than her yearly salary. Other servers had whispered about how rich he must be, how lucky whoever served him would be. Maria hadn't felt lucky. She felt nervous, hyper-aware of every movement, every refill, every crumb she wiped from the table. She had treated him with the same warmth she gave everyone. Polite, attentive, respectful. Because that was who she was, not because of who he might be. He had eaten slowly, barely touching the fries, staring out the window as rain streaked the glass. There was something heavy about him, like a storm contained inside a human body. When he finally stood and left, the bell over the door chimed softly, and Maria rushed over, heart hopeful for a generous tip that might buy groceries and medicine. Instead, she saw the empty line on the receipt. Her fingers tightened. For a second, embarrassment burned hotter than anger. Had she done something wrong? Was the coffee cold? Had she forgotten to smile enough? The shame crept in like a quiet poison, the kind that tells you you're invisible, unworthy, replaceable. She blinked hard, refusing to let tears fall in front of customers. She folded the receipt slowly and slipped it into her apron pocket, pretending it didn't matter, but it did. She went to clear the table, stacking plates mechanically, her mind already calculating which bill would go unpaid tonight. As she lifted the dinner plate, something unusual caught her eye, a folded piece of thick paper tucked carefully beneath it. At first she assumed it was trash, maybe a napkin, but the edges were crisp, deliberate. Her curiosity nudged her hand to open it. Her breath stopped. It was an envelope. Inside, her fingers brushed against a stack of cash so thick it barely fit. Hundreds, maybe thousands, and a folded handwritten note. Her pulse hammered in her ears as she unfolded the paper with shaking hands. The message wasn't long, but every word felt like it was written directly into her chest. It spoke about how the man had once been poor, invisible, treated like nothing when he had nothing. It spoke of how money often blinded people from seeing hearts. He wrote that he had left a 0 tip on the receipt intentionally, not to punish, but to see if kindness could exist without expectation. He explained he had watched how she treated every table equally, how she smiled even when no one was watching, how she refilled coffee for an elderly man without being asked, how she knelt down to tie a child's shoelace near the booth. The note ended with a simple line, "Real kindness deserves real change. I hope this helps you rewrite your story." Maria's knees nearly buckled. She counted the cash twice, afraid her eyes were lying. It was more money than she earned in months. Her chest tightened with a mixture of disbelief, gratitude, and overwhelming relief. Tears spilled freely now, blurring the diner lights into soft halos. This wasn't just a tip. This was rent, medicine, a repaired car, maybe even savings, something she hadn't had since before her husband died. Her manager noticed her standing frozen and rushed over, concern written across his face. Maria could barely speak. She just showed him the envelope and the note, her hands still shaking. His mouth fell open in shock, and soon the small moment became a quiet ripple of amazement among the staff. For once, the diner buzzed with something other than exhaustion. It buzzed with hope. That night, Maria drove home through the rain with the envelope tucked safely in her bag, her heart lighter than it had been in years. When she opened the door to her tiny apartment, Eli ran into her arms like he always did, his small body warm and trusting. She held him tighter than usual, breathing in the scent of his shampoo, whispering silent promises that things were going to change. But the money wasn't the only thing that changed her life. The next morning, Maria woke up with a new sense of purpose. She paid the overdue rent. She filled Eli's prescription without counting coins in her palm. She fixed the car before it could completely break down. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to breathe without fear chasing every thought. Still, something inside her felt unfinished. The note had stirred something deeper than gratitude. It reminded her that kindness wasn't weak, that being gentle in a hard world mattered more than people realized. She started leaving small anonymous gifts for others, paying for a struggling customer's coffee, slipping grocery money into a tired mother's bag, leaving encouraging notes on receipts for lonely seniors. She didn't tell anyone. It wasn't about being seen. It was about passing forward the invisible miracle that had saved her. Weeks passed. One quiet afternoon, a letter arrived in her mailbox with no return address. Inside was another note from the same billionaire. He had returned to the diner, hoping to see her again, but learned she was on her day off. He wrote that he wanted to know how she was doing, not as a test, not as charity, but as a human being. He invited her to write back if she felt comfortable. Maria sat at her small kitchen table that night after Eli fell asleep, writing carefully, honestly. She told him about her husband, her son, the long nights, the fear of losing everything. She told him what his gift had done, not just financially but emotionally. She told him she had started helping others in small ways because of him. A correspondence began. Letters turned into occasional phone calls. The billionaire, whose name was Thomas, wasn't what Maria expected. He wasn't cold or arrogant. He was thoughtful, introspective, lonely in ways money couldn't fix. His fortune had grown, but his personal life had shrunk into empty mansions and quiet boardrooms. Maria didn't treat him like a billionaire. She treated him like a man. She talked about Eli's school projects, burnt dinners, funny moments at the diner, the simple beauty of ordinary life. Thomas listened like someone who had forgotten how to live among real people. Months later, Thomas visited the diner again, this time not as a mystery, but as a friend. He sat in Maria's section, smiled warmly, and left a normal tip like anyone else. No drama, no spectacle, just two humans sharing a meal in gratitude. But Thomas didn't stop there. He quietly funded a scholarship program for single parents in the community. He invested in renovating the diner so employees could earn better wages. He helped Maria enroll in evening business classes so she could one day manage or even own her own cafe. His generosity wasn't loud. It was steady, intentional, rooted in respect rather than pity. Maria's life slowly transformed, not into luxury, but into stability, dignity, and possibility. Eli grew healthier. Laughter returned to their home. Maria's shoulders no longer carried the same crushing weight. She walked taller, smiled easier, dreamed again. Yet what moved her most wasn't the money or opportunity. It was the reminder that kindness had power. That one quiet moment beneath a dinner plate had rewritten the trajectory of her entire life. That goodness, even when unnoticed, could echo far beyond a single shift in a diner. As the years passed, Maria opened a small cafe of her own with warm lighting, fair wages, and free meals for struggling families once a week. On the wall near the counter hung a framed copy of the handwritten note that started it all, not as a trophy but as a reminder of who she chose to be. And every time she watched a tired mother walk through her door with worry in her eyes, Maria made sure she was treated with the same dignity she once gave without knowing it would save her. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps spread stories of hope, humanity, and second chances to more people who may need them today. Special request, before you go, comment the word kindness and share what this story made you feel or reminded you of in your own life. Because sometimes the smallest hidden gesture can change everything, not just for one person, but for an entire chain of hearts waiting to believe again.